The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Andrea McMaster.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Consider This. I'm Andrea McMaster. According to national surveys, about 30% of youth in the United States are affected by bullies, either as the bully themselves or a target of a bully. It affects their sense of self-worth and it affects their future relationships. And chronic bullies seem to maintain their behaviors into adulthood. They're often the ones that end up in our prisons. Learning to spot the signs that your child is involved in bullying is really the focus of today's Consider This. And I want to introduce to you two guests, Stephanie Meyer-Reed, who is the Center Director for Kid Power Omaha. Recently started this about a year ago after her move from California. We're glad to have you with us here today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
And also Jamie Givens, who is a school psychology student at UNL, the fifth-year PhD student who's been involved in research in schools, particularly in the Lincoln area, on bullying. So we're glad to have both of you here today and to hear your insights and really just help parents. And I think this is a perfect time for this show because we're gearing up for school really in a couple of weeks to head off to school, and parents are thinking about how can they make sure that their kids not only go to school and have the right education, but that they're going to school and they feel good about themselves sitting in those classrooms. So I think let's start off with that right away. What are some signs that we might, as parents, be able to realize in our kids that they might be a victim of a bully?
There are several different signs that your child might be victimized, and some of those actually overlap with some signs that your child might be bullying others, such as change in peer group, change in status of a peer group. Other signs that your child might be victimized is all of a sudden they don't want to walk to and from school or ride the school bus. They may also feel ill in the mornings and not want to go to school, decrease in academic grades, also increased levels of depressive symptoms, anxiety, lower self-esteem, and chronic victims of bullying may bring weapons to school or even contemplate suicide. So there's several different warning signs.
If your child is actually the bully, can you notice that, or is there anything to be able to know, any signs there to know? I mean, a parent would probably want to know that as well.
Well, like I said, the change in the peer groups or change in status in a peer group, as well as increased aggressive behaviors, maybe increased office referrals at school or phone calls from the teacher and school staff. And as well as you might notice them becoming more aggressive with their siblings or other peers.
Do you think this is a good conversation for parents to have before their kids go to school of you might be picked on, you might be bullied, this can happen, and this is how you should respond?
I think it's great for parents to start talking to their kids before the child ends up in that situation. Children might start bullying at a very young age, and for parents to be able to tell their child, if these things happen, we can get some help and here are some resources, so that the child is prepared and also feels the permission to speak to the parent if they're coming up with a problem at school. They know that their parent is connected and is really going to listen to them.
Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about really how those children can respond, having some of those own tools, because it can start as early as preschool, startling, and it's very startling for people to hear that, but that's actually happening, that we're seeing that today. But I want you to each individually talk a little bit about your background here. And first, I'll have you start here, Stephanie, and talk a little bit about Kid Power Omaha. You've mentioned that it's not just for kids, but Kid Power, Teen Power, Full Power, International, really you're teaching people of all ages how to be safe.
Yes.
So I want you to talk a little bit about why you thought it was so key for this program and critical for this program to be here in the Omaha area. You mentioned that you moved to Omaha about a year ago from California, where you were involved in this program, and why it was something that you wanted to make sure that was here in our city as well.
Well, I was lucky enough to get to work with the founder of Kid Power. It started about 17 years ago, and she actually lived in my city, so I got to work with her directly. And I saw that Kid Power training was just phenomenal. I saw the change it made in my own life. When I was in college, I took a women's self-defense class with Irene van der Zand, the founder, and it was revolutionary for me to feel that I could move differently in the world, act with confidence, move with awareness. And over time, I found my way back to Kid Power and became an instructor myself. And I saw just incredible changes in the lives of children, in entire school systems that would employ the Kid Power teaching kits and the systems in the schools. And I saw what a difference it made in people's lives. Just a couple hours of a class could really change children from going to shut down, withdrawn, to moving with confidence, to being aware in the world. And I thought, Omaha doesn't have anything like this yet. I want to spread these skills to as many people as I can reach. I think they're just extremely valuable.
And the focus here, are you expanding it for adults as well?
Yes, we've been trained in everything. So we do Kid Power, Teen Power. We do full power for adults with everything from, the full physical self-defense with kick pads and down to parent education for children that are very young still in preschool, or parents who want to know how to start talking to their kids about being safe.
Okay. I'm going to hear a little bit some of those teaching methods here in a minute, but I'll let Jamie, you just introduce yourself, and I know that you're here just representing the book that you have in your hand here, and some of the research that you've been doing at UNL with some of the other PhD students there, psychology students. So go ahead and just share why you're here.
Our research group has been doing research on bullying behaviors for the past decade, really, and Dr. Susan Swear leads that research group. What we do is gather information on bullying behaviors and some of the outcomes involved and some of the predictors involved in bullying behaviors, and we do that through surveying local elementary, middle, and high schools across Nebraska as well as in other states, and we give back that information to the schools so that they can make database decisions about how they can implement prevention and intervention programs. Additionally, just speaking at local and national conferences, teacher in-services, providing workshops for teachers and other school administration are things that we do. And writing articles, book chapters, things that give back to the research community as well to advance the field of bullying. For example, Dr. Susan Swear did write Bullying in American Schools with Dr. Dorothy Espelage of Illinois, and this book provides just a comprehensive idea of what bullying is, what schools can do about it, how they can make database decisions as far as intervention and prevention programs for their schools.
Okay, so you've been doing some surveys in schools, not just in the Lincoln area, but in the state. What have you found in some of your research? Have the surveys kind of been surprising to you, or what have you seen?
At times, and I think some of the trends have changed over the years as far as different types of bullying, because we know that bullying takes many different forms, such as physical, verbal, social exclusion, gossip, rumors, those types of things. And so we find some gender differences at times, maybe in the younger grades, where physical aggression is a little bit more prevalent than in the older grades, where it's pretty equally matched as far as verbal, name-calling, relational aggression. And so looking at gender differences, also outcomes as far as what are the effects of different participation in bullying. So those students who bully we found that they are more depressed than those students who don't bully. Those who are victims have a tendency to be more anxious and depressed, as well as bully victims. They have a tendency to be more anxious and depressed. And then also bystanders, those who witness bullying are also affected by that. They may become more aggressive or have lower self-esteem or depression rates.
Are you finding that it is really prevalent in our schools today that bullying is happening? I mean, we hear about it. You say the national surveys, about 30% of kids are affected. Is this true in our areas as well?
Definitely, I think so. As far as, especially when we give information back to the schools, some of them are often surprised. Teachers are often surprised, and some of them are like, that's right, that's true. This 6th grade class really really does have problems with that. So it's things that they notice as well. But oftentimes, because bullying happens when adults aren't around, they aren't aware of it as much. So really we like to provide them with some awareness of what's going on in their school and what they can do to help it.
What are some things that schools can do?
Well, there are several different things that some schools are currently doing and some schools could do. And that would start with a comprehensive assessment of the school to find out the frequency of bullying behaviors, who are the students who are bullying, who are the students that are victims and bystanders, and what's the frequency of students that aren't involved in bullying. And as well as gaining perceptions of what students think teachers and other staff are doing to combat and inhibit bullying behaviors. And so getting that assessment provides them with information and really decision-making power as far as intervention and prevention efforts that they want to put in place. And that might be homeschool communication increased, a referral mechanism for mental health issues, or just fostering positive peer relationships and a positive school climate. Other things that some schools are doing are following and making an anti-bullying pledge and anti-bullying policies within their schools.
You brought up a good point there when mentioning the bystanders. I think that right there, that can maybe inhibit, and it could even be a teacher that's maybe not stepping in when they need to, or or other students, and that right there is just helping the bullying continue, because from what I've understood is that the bully is getting what they want, the response that they want, the cheerleading or whatever from those bystanders of just not even stepping in and saying anything. And that just really being key, that you make sure that those bystanders know that they are a part of the bullying, even if they're not the ones giving the words or the verbal abuse or the physical abuse.
Yeah, they definitely have the power to change the school environment because they are either participants, active or passive, so they have the opportunity to step in and do something.
You're nodding your head, so I can have you throw some words in there here, Wisdom.
One of the things that we've had students practice at schools is being advocates for each other and learning how to be an advocate in a safe way, so that if you see bullying happening, learn how to assess the situation. Is this safe for me to intervene? Would I just become part of the problem if I stuck up for somebody or intervened? If it is safe, how to do it in a really clear, calm, centered way. So you're not too aggressive, you're not too passive, but to state a boundary in a really clear way. Bullying isn't allowed at our school. I see what you're doing, you're excluding her. Please don't do that. So that the students themselves can practice these skills of how to speak to someone in a way that's clear, calm, and confident with awareness. They can also assess the situation and say, I don't know those kids over there, and I don't feel comfortable saying something, but we teach them how to be persistent in speaking with adults. So going to a teacher, going to a principal, I'm sure you've seen this too, that sometimes teachers are busy, principals are busy. Oh, just ignore it. Oh, forget about it. Just never mind. I'm busy, I can't help right now. One of the role plays we do with students is how to be persistent in a really clear, calm way. To say, I need help. I see a safety problem happening in our school. Please help me. And to really engage the teachers on a level where they don't hear, oh, she didn't, no. But how to be presenting yourself in a clear, calm way so that the teachers and administrators can then be advocates for students to really prevent bullying when they see it happening.
So this is some good information that parents can use in teaching their children here before they get on the school bus for these early days of school. This, I would think, would begin, though, what grade? Second, third, and on? Or even earlier?
We teach it even earlier. I teach public classes through the public libraries and things. We have a workshop coming up for 4 to 8-year-olds. And we can teach a child as young as 4 years old how to set a clear, consistent boundary with a peer or with an adult. And that goes to all levels of abuse or intrusion that an adult might do with a child. So just teaching a child something as simple as, okay, go ahead and close down your body. We'll tell everybody, close down, and talk to them. What does that feel like? They might say small, weak, scared. They'll realize, oh, I can only see my feet. And we'll talk about, do you feel aware? Do you feel ready to move? We call this our closed down posture. And then instructing that same class, go ahead and sit up. Look around. What can you see? Do you feel ready to move? Do you feel ready to respond? That's our close down and open up practice that we can teach a 4-year-old or younger, even a 3-year-old, how to do that and just to feel within their own bodies the difference of this sort of posture and this sort of posture. And so children start to feel in their bodies the posture. What does it feel like when you're playing a victim? And teaching children you can look confident and aware even if you don't feel that way inside. That's a way you can hold your body. That's a way you can move through the world even if you're not feeling that on the inside.
And being so critical that a child does have that confidence because it affects their self-esteem, which in turn affects academically how they're going to perform in school, whether they even want to go to school that day. Yeah. And so talk a little bit about that it's so important to make sure that kids are not affected just for their own self-esteem, future relationships, the way they might respond to others in the future as adults even. They're learning these behaviors early on that are social behaviors that are so critical.
Sure.
So I don't know if you want to respond at all to that a little bit and just talking about what you've seen and changes maybe in self-worth, knowing that you can make a difference in a child that's being bullied early on.
Sure. I've taught a lot of classes from people of all ages and of all abilities, working with people who have disabilities. One of my first classes I ever taught in training, I was paired with a student who was blind. And teaching a blind person how to be able to do these skills when they can't see what their body looks like, but really feeling and embodying these skills, how to be safe, how to speak with confidence and awareness, how to make a strong physical boundary. And seeing the changes in people as they go through this process, they may come in shy and nervous about the class and they leave and they're just glowing. And I'll hear people say things, wow, why don't we teach this like math skills or language skills? These skills are so vital. This has changed my life. I taught an adult women's self-defense class, and one of the women in there said, I have been needing to do this for the last 20 years of my life, but it's so uncomfortable to deal with these subjects sometimes that she just kept putting it off. And she said, this is the best thing I've ever done for myself.
One thing we haven't hit on, Jamie, is why do kids bully in the first place? And I think that's important to talk about today.
Definitely. Well, the reasons that children bully are complicated by developmental patterns, those that are involved in their lives. One of the main reasons that students say that they bully is because it's a way for them to achieve power and social dominance over other people. And oftentimes our society permits that. Other reasons they may take part in bullying behaviors include imitation. They might have seen it done at home or at school, and so they're following that model. Insecurity, they may feel bad about themselves and bully another to get back at them or to make themselves feel better. And then they may also try to get back at somebody for a harm or a slight that they've done, so they want to seek some revenge. Other things include expectations. So if you've bullied, you've taken part in other aggressive behaviors, teachers, other students expect you to do that. And so oftentimes they're just living up to that expectation, and it's harder to change than to keep going with the status quo of what they've done for a long time. But the number one reason that students say they take part in bullying behaviors is to achieve power.
And so how do you change that? How do you change that behavior in a child who is a bully?
Well, you have to take into consideration the entire environment, the entire ecological system that they're involved with. So what are their internal factors within the individual that are interacting with the social environment to create some of those dynamics? So is a child highly impulsive, aggressive, anxious, depressed, angry or hostile? All of those individual factors interact with the culture of the school, peer environment, family members, classroom and school rules. And so taking a look at those individual factors and trying to change some of the social factors as far as encouraging more positive peer groups that don't promote or don't encourage bullying behaviors. Following classroom rules that do the same, that provide a safe and comfortable learning environment that's positive for students and that they feel they can really learn from. So those are some of the things, as well as some family dynamics that definitely play a role into the reasons students bully. So oftentimes counselors will get together with the students who are bullying one-on-one with their parent and kind of sort out what's going on and the reasons that they're taking part in these behaviors, and may refer them to mental health resources so that they can really deal with some of those internal factors that are driving their behavior.
Okay. You've already alluded to this, but I'm going to throw it back to you here. It's just that bullying takes different forms, and there's the gender differences. And I would think that boys would maybe tend to use the physical bullying, and the girls would be more of the verbal abuse. Is that true?
It does have a tendency to happen that way, especially in the younger years. We find that physical aggression, physical bullying really peaks in middle school and then kind of tailors off in high school, where it becomes more relational. It takes more of the gossip, rumor spreading, exclusion forms. And there's a couple different reasons why we think that happens, because cognitive abilities increase with age, and so students are more easily able to detect when they want to or intend to hurt somebody in a relational way, as well as they get better at hiding what they're doing, and they know that physical attacks aren't as easy. They're more obvious to adults that are around.
So it sounds like it's really important for the whole family to be involved if there's a bullying issue going on, or even to prevent one from happening. It's not just the student at school, it's the teachers and that environment, but it's also the home environment that really needs to be involved.
The home environment is important, but the school system carries a lot of weight, and I think it's critical for schools to have a policy around bullying, to have some training around bullying, how to recognize it, how to address it, and how to empower the students to keep that from happening. A lot of times with simple skills, the students themselves can resolve a lot of their own conflicts just by having the voice, the power to be able to set boundaries, to be able to move or leave a situation that looks like it could be potentially dangerous. Just knowing how to walk away. It can be very powerful to leave a situation that appears to be, oh, this is really harmful. And teaching children they don't have to engage in an aggressive way, they don't have to be passive and become a victim, but to be able to walk away from a situation, get help from an adult, and really train the staff to recognize the signs and to be advocates for kids when the kids come and say, this is happening. Sometimes teachers feel so overwhelmed by the numerous complaints that kids give that they don't know how to move in to really be advocates for their class. And through those skills, the bullies will also get the skills of, oh, I can walk away. Some children are maybe acting just out of impulse, an aggressive impulse. It's totally natural to feel angry if your friend hurts your feelings. And their reaction might be to aggress in some way. But teaching the bullies, you can be even more powerful and more in control of your feelings by making a different choice. You're just as out of control as someone who's weak or passive if you let your emotions and your passions control your behavior. So it's enlightening for the bullies too to see, oh, I'm also out of control when I react this way.
You mentioned that you work with adults too, and we only have about 4 minutes left, but I want you to share a little bit about how you work with adults, because we often think, oh, it's just kids that are bullied or are bullies, but it happens in our workplaces. It happens with adults.
Time.
And how do you build that confidence? It's probably different than some of the skills you would provide.
The truth
kids.
is it's really not different. The skills we teach to a 4-year-old are the same that we teach to an 84-year-old. And we've taught people in that whole range. And the skills are, first, using your awareness, your calm, and your confidence. And going through the practices of feeling in your body what that feels like. And knowing that you can act one way and feel another. So you can act calm, confident, and aware, even inside, if you're feeling like, my boots are shaking, my boss is saying all these things to me, what am I going to do? Get your center and present yourself. Then how to set a boundary in a relationship. So someone is touching you in an appropriate way, someone is making harassing comments to you, how to be able to set a strong verbal boundary. Excuse me, that's not okay with me. I would appreciate you not to make those comments around me. How to also, if the situation escalates, how to say, I'm going to make a report about this situation. Please stop. Stop or I'll leave. Stop or I'll tell a supervisor. And the levels increase. So leaving the situation if you need to, assessing a safety situation if you're out in the world, let's say you're a woman walking to your parked car at night. How do you assess the situation? Where's the lights? Where's safety? Where are people that are moving around? How to set boundaries, how to move out of reach and leave a situation. And of course, as a last resort, we teach fighting skills, how to physically defend yourself if you've tried all the other methods, leaving, getting help, setting boundaries, moving out of reach. If you've done all those things and you are in a situation where you have to respond in a physical way to protect yourself, teaching skills that are strong, that are effective, that are easy to learn, so that you can get one strong move will stop most attacks, and how you can have that one strong move and get yourself to safety.
Okay, well, you mentioned that the author of Kid Power, the book that you brought along with you today,
I did.
That she really had a personal experience that drove her to want to find and look at some research.
She did. This is the new book from Kid Power, the Kid Power book for caring adults. It has over 100 pages on bullying in it. So any parent who wants to read about bullying or prevent violence, it's a great resource. And it started with Irene van der Zande. She had someone approach her in a public bus station and threatened to kidnap her children. She was caring for a few children and a few of their friends. She had a large group with her. And she didn't know what to do. This was many, many years ago. Had small children, felt very afraid, and ended up calling for help and soliciting bystanders. Help me, this man is bothering me. This man is threatening my children. And someone finally came over and helped her and got the aggressor to leave. After that situation happened, she realized she didn't have any skills for herself. What if someone had tried to take one of the children? What would she have done? So she got self-defense skills for herself through a model mugging course, women's self-defense, and then realized there really wasn't much out there for children, or martial arts trainings or things, but how to create a program that's safe, effective, easy to learn, can be learned in a short amount of time, and really give kids the skills they need to stay safe.
Okay, all wonderful ideas, and I know Kid Power Omaha, we've had the website up, www.kidpower.org, and Stephanie is available to teach some classes for those that are interested. And Jamie Givens, thank you very much for being here, and good luck on the rest of your schooling. And thank you for watching this edition of Consider This.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.